Yeah, the Prairie Banana thought that it would be good for everyone to know, the pure scale of what Richard Hart is doing, and these efforts are insanely brilliant. But if you can give us more insight on that and tell us how you think that this is going to play out.
Sure, you bet. And I'll temper that with I have signed non-disclosure agreements, so I cannot tell you everything I know, but I can tell you things that are public or public speculations that others have made that are not my speculation. So for starters, let's start with the number of these things that are going out. We know that they get shipped in containers. This is public information, so they're coming out of China. There's like 200,000 ish in a container. I have unloaded a container. It's lots of work. So if you're in California near Los Angeles, I'm sure they would take you up on some help with that. The whole thing's being run by volunteers. Like, so people are putting stickers on, hundreds of thousands of stickers, and unloading these giant containers. There's going to be multiple containers. RH has alluded to this. It's been posted in public groups. I think, and this is just my speculation, that the total number of these devices might be something like $10 million. Recently, RH Post did a post, and I'll paraphrase, where he talked about how people don't know how math works. And it was a very simple post with basic math. He starts with $10 million to one person, or, or $1 million to 10 people. And he keeps going down the line until he gets to, or $1 to 10 million people. And that's all he says in that post, right? Is like he goes from what $10 million to one person, or $1 to 10 million people. Now, what was he talking about? Why did he make this weird basic math post? I'm pretty sure it's because these things, when you order them on bulk from like direct from a supplier, and by bulk I mean millions, you might get them for less than $1 a piece, and the total cost, including mailing inside the continental USA, is probably somewhere around $1. So I think when he says $1 to 10 million people, is he spent $10 million on buying and shipping these things, and he intends to send out 10 million, which are, arriving presumably in 50 shipping containers, which takes more than a week to get them to unload. I think it's a continuous process. It's going to take a year for all 50 shipping containers to come, for all the manufacturing to happen, and for these things to be manually labeled and sent out to, I think, very specific people who, are most likely to take action. So, like, as far as the scale, it's ginormous, right? Like, it's a measurable portion of the population of the United States. And I think it will continue into, other countries. He's indicated that people should set up charities, and these things are being sent out by charities that promote open source code, immutable code, that kind of thing. And he's asked for people previously to set up charities in Europe, in the UK, in Australia, in Canada. And I know some of those things have happened already. Like, there are charities set up who are going to be able to send these things out. The reason for that is because charities typically get kind of a half price deal on mailing. So, the math is good. So we're talking, yeah, millions of these things. Only like maybe 200,000 have gone out so far at most. I bet you it's much less. I bet you it's 30, 40,000. But like, there's going to, in the next month, that number is going to go up to 400,000, and then it's going to go up to 1 million. And then sometime over the next year, it's going to go up to 10 million. It's a huge impact. And that's, those are just the numbers that are going out. The effect that they have will be multiplied by the nature of the device, the innate utility that it has, and people's hesitancy to just throw it away like they would with a normal piece of junk mail. These things will be seen tens of millions of times as they sit on someone's coffee table, as they're, beside their front door. He did a post mentioning that the next batch might come with a fridge magnet on it. So, like, how many times are people going to read pulsechain.com when it's stuck to their fridge and they write their grocery list on it every day? So, like, is it like, magical technology we've never seen before? No. But like, you multiply it by 10 million and you send it to the right people. And I think he has a way to do that I can't go into. The math is good. I like it.
So, has anything like this ever been done before?
In traditional marketing, certainly, though, like, when we start to get into electronic gifts as marketing, right, like promotional gifts as marketing, like, it's sort of like last 5 to 10 years where that would have picked up steam. So, like, it would have been done by many companies. Has it been done by a crypto company on this scale? Certainly not. This is, yeah, massive, never before seen marketing, at least in regards to crypto.
And you said 10 million mailers?
That I think that's what that post is about, where he did nothing except for give the math on $10 million and what happens when you divide it by, you divide 10 million by 10 million and you get $1 each. That's all he said in that post. He didn't say he was sending out 10 million pieces, but yeah, that's what I took from that, and previous things in public rooms and that he's posted indicating that there may be many containers coming, right? Like this is an ongoing project and it's massive. It's like, and like the sheer space that 10 million of these things takes up is ridiculous, right? Like it's like a football field full of these devices stacked 17 feet high, right? And I've been to the warehouse, I've unloaded the truck, we stacked them to the frickin' roof. Like it's a serious commercial level undertaking, right? Like you could compare this to like the type of advertising that huge companies would do, right? Like this is something worthy of Microsoft, of Apple, right, of Tesla, right? It's pretty high end stuff. And even though like we're going to get things like the post a lot of us recently saw where some person or another who was involved in crypto, very involved, posted like, oh no, I got the scam thing in the mail. It was awesome. That post, I should find it, it had like 200,000 views, right? So one person received this, posted like, oh, I received this weird scam thing, it gets 200,000 views. Like multiply, like in like a week, multiply that by 10 million, right? Like you end up with a massive quantity of people who are aware of these things even if they don't get it themselves. It's yeah, truly a tremendous marketing effort. It's genius level marketing. Is it kind of trashy? Is it like, are you sending me a dollar store item? Like, yeah, totally. I'm like, yeah, I'm right on board with those kind of naysayers. Like, yeah, we're not sending them like an iPhone, right? Like this is not better than your iPad. But that's not the point. The point is there's 10 million of them, and crypto bros, it seems, are getting them in the mail, and then they're talking about them on Twitter, positive or negative. And it's not all negative. The negative ones just get more impact. Here we go. I found the post from Kimberly Mitnick. It now has 400K views of her posting a picture of this thing and saying like, is this a scam, essentially? So like if that happens like a million more times, like we've taken over Twitter. It's pretty awesome.
That is so amazing. I am so excited. And I was so proud of myself. I can tell that I'm really working on my triggers because originally I wanted to respond to her message, but I was good and I didn't because I decided that if I wasn't going to say anything nice, I just wasn't going to say anything at all. So I hearted her post.
I talked to SJ. I'm trying to figure out a time, maybe in October, that I can get out there myself, get my hands a little dirty, try to dig in and help on a physical level. But just big props to you. But the question I have to you, and it's like I don't know if this has been out there publicly yet, or because I've heard anything from 100,000 units are going in, across the U.S. to 400,000 to 10 million globally. Is there any information that's like publicly available for us to just kind of get an idea of how many are expected to hit the U.S., like what other countries are next, and what the volumes are for those? Do you have any information that you could share?
Yeah. So the information that I could share now is so there's no set schedule or how many are coming. They're just coming, and I just told another ship's coming, another ship's coming, another ship's coming. So I know we have 1 million units that are on the water or here in the warehouse. 1 million, guys. So the hive here is expecting to put out 1 million units by the end of December, and that's a monumental task. And I think that it can be done. Like I said, about 30,000 units have already gone out as we're doing the build out and just chaos and pandemonium. I think that this can be ramped up to about 20 to 30,000 units a day. And as we expand here, maybe even more. There's no end in sight in how many of these units can come out. I've been told everything from I'd like to see one in everybody's mailbox to, like you said, 10 million, 11 million globally. But there is no set number. They just keep coming. They're not stopping. Like I said, there's production overseas going on these things. So I know there's another couple of sea containers coming from there. And like I said, there's already 1 million of them on the water or here at the warehouse or at the port right now. So yeah, that's the numbers. That's where we're at. And if we can push these things out, they'll just keep coming. There's no end in sight because the response of 0.5% of the units of a million units has already garnered a massive response as far as we're concerned. With just the few tweets that have gone out, the Reddit posts and everything, I mean, that's hell of a response. 400,000 people seeing that thing. I mean, come on, come on. That's badass. And I don't care if it's negative or positive or whatever, it's response. And that's what you want. So these things aren't hurting nobody. They're a free gift. There is no scam, and we all know that. So guess what? They're going to end up falling on the right people's ears, and the people who want to fight it, of course, they're always going to do that, and that's fine. But it's never going to hurt anybody for these things to end up in your kids' toy drawer or whatever. It's a beautiful thing, guys. This is going to be really, really cool. We have been expanding every minute of every day. And this isn't Richard Hart doing this. I want to let you guys know, I heard Richard Hart. No, we have donors that have sent generous donations of these devices and funds to take care of the postage on these devices. And the nonprofit organization is doing all the work, setting up all the warehousing, doing all of the distribution of these devices. They were just donated by anonymous and generous donors. This is a Hexagon effort that's going on right here. There are people donating their time, their resources, their vehicles, their expertise, you name it. Hexagons are the ones that are doing this. It has nothing to do with Richard Hart, just to let you know. So as brilliant as these things are, it takes a whole army to put these out. So my hat's off to Crypto Coffee and SJ and the rest of the crew here, all the workers that have been helping out. They've put close to 40,000 of these out, and they're still doing the build out on the building and expanding it. And they've already taken over another section, two another sections of the building because there's another sea container coming in just a couple of days. So it's really is grassroots, real, raw Hexagon effort putting this together. They call it the Hive, and it's like a bunch of busy bees just going to it. And just kind of a little bit on the woman that tweeted. So just to let you know, that wasn't a target. Like this device hit that area because it was an area that was targeted for demographic reasons. And it was literally the first day, and the next day we got that tweet. Just happened to be somebody who was in the security space and put out this tweet about it being a scam. And of course, like good Hexagons, they swarmed it and, made sure that everybody knew what it really was, that it wasn't a scam, and that this is blockchain awareness and literacy being put out by the community itself through a foundation that is trying to use these tools that have been put out there to spread blockchain literacy and awareness. So I just want everybody to be clear who's actually doing this, and it's your community, guys, and it's you. So all the tweeting, everything you do, all the information you disseminate fast. He came out here and helped these guys do all this stuff, and it was amazing. Flew all the way from Canada to come help. And these things are stacked from the floor to the ceiling, and this is a tall ceiling, guys. It's about an 18-foot ceiling, I think, and these things are stacked wall to wall. And blowing out of the place, and more coming, and more scheduled to come, more being loaded overseas. And we've got another ship on the ocean and one in port. So they're going to keep flowing. They're flowing out now and going to zip codes all over the country. And it's already getting great response. We're seeing it on Reddit. We're seeing it on other platforms where people are seeing these devices, wondering what they are, and getting the message of blockchain awareness. And of course, Pulse Hex, Pulsechain, Pulsex, all those things are mentioned on it to show you what real, true DeFi is and how to teach yourself crypto the right way. So with that, I'm just going to say, I got to get back to work. Appreciate all you guys. Anybody who wants to come out and help in Marietta, California, Richard Hart tweeted that out. It's get a hold of a Wild SJ through DMs or through the the RS Griffin Foundation on Twitter and sign up for a shift and come be part of history, guys. It's really awesome. Everyone's getting fed, playing music, having a good time, and it's real stuff happening here by a real community. So I'm proud of everybody that's working. They're kicking ass, and I love the negative response we're getting, the positive response we're getting. It's response, guys, and that's what counts. It's a viral moment getting ready to happen, and these little devices that people are either going to talk shit about or dig are going to be the thing that lights the spark. I think we've already seen numbers changing in the on the charts. So let's pump this out. Come help and be part of history. Thanks, guys.
Hey, RG, before you dip, can I ask you a question really quick? And I wanted to just give you your flowers publicly. I know we haven't talked in a while. I could just call you, but
Yeah,
I saw
brother.
you on here, so I wanted to hop on. Number one, you guys are crushing it. Great job out there.
We appreciate you so much. Please give SJ a big hug and kiss for us, and tell Coffee that he's awesome. You guys really inspire me.
Like we covered the marketing thing. Okay, so like a bazillion of these things going out, I think they're going to have an awesome effect. I think there could be, additional pumps attached to them.
The way I see this is what we are in right now is novel, and we've never seen another founder like ship out millions of pencils or whatever it is. We've never seen like a level of material marketing that we have in the ecosystem we're in, and at the same time we've never seen the same type of like grassroots community that we see in Hex and Pulsechain communities. It's definitely like a entirely different ecosystem, and I can say this speaking really well. I know so much of the bigger guys personally in the Sol ecosystems that run that basically just farm all day. And like I'm telling you that there's such a big distinction because a lot of those guys are just like come in, flip a couple bucks, get out. There's no interest in tech, there's no interest in any of this. It is like the OG DeFi community is Hex, and it is funny to see like a lot of the like the Bitcoin OGs and even a lot of the ETH OGs now like have so much negative to say about Richard, but everyone fails to acknowledge that Richard really did build one of like the first DeFi protocols on Ethereum, and the even better point is that he this sounds so like inflated, but it is absolutely true, and I witnessed it, and I made a lot of money because of it. But he was the primary adopter of Uniswap, which is like if you are talking about crypto, there's like automated market makers are more important than stable coins. And the stable coin narrative right now is bigger, but the automated market makers allow the stable coins to exist. And I think that that's like such an important thing to drive home because Richard literally is the one who popularized that. Uniswap, I'm sure, would have become popular without him. But anyone I know that was in Hex when I was in Hex, we all got a massive airdrop for every wallet that we were using because we used Uniswap. Like it sounds so far fetched, but we got several $1,000s per wallet just for using Uniswap because there was no one else using it. So the Hexicans got the lion's share of that drop.
I'll admit that was a great day. I
Yeah,
think
bro,
anyone
it's
can
free
agree.
money.
Hex was the main reason Uniswap took off.
I think it helped jumpstart it, right? Like I said, I think Uniswap was inevitable, and I think that its popularity was inevitable. But I think that Richard was like really that that jump start to it, and then a lot of others followed suit.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Pulsechain and Pulsex was designed to perform over 2-3 cycles, which you're looking at 8 to 12 years from launch, and we're 2.5 years in. So I think we've seen nothing yet. And you got to remember, right? Richard Hart basically done the same thing with Hex. In order to mint Hex, you had to. It wasn't called a sacrifice then, but as such, sacrifice your Ethereum in order to mint Hex, right? And everyone that was minting Hex obviously handed their Ethereum over to Mr. Hart. and I think he raised something around $8-9 million worth of Ethereum from people minting Hex, and he just held it until Ethereum 10, 11, 12x from there, and he had just under $100 million, and he pumped that Ethereum into the small liquidity pools. I think the Hex liquidity pools were like 250,000, 300, 400k at the most when he started pumping 85 between 80 and 85 million dollars, I think it was, worth of Ethereum into those liquidity pools. And that's why Hex obviously 10,000x. And if you think about it now, it's not very different to what he's doing with Pulsechain. You know, it's a very similar thing. It's just on a much larger scale. And you know, even though the money he's raised is not enough to 10,000x Pulsechain and Pulsex itself, it's still more than enough to, you know, to get that started. And obviously a lot more money is going to come in once that ball is rolling. And you know, people forget Richard Art himself is now the 5th larger of Ethereum in the world, and he's on the Forbes list, right, as the 5th largest holder of Ethereum on the planet. So that's going to drive major money into the chain when they see that that's, you know, now sitting in the Pulsechain treasury. So, you know, I'm very confident in what he's doing, and I trust that one way or another, you know, that money is going to enter the chain. And I don't think it's going to happen in the way that people think. You know, everybody's watching the SAC funds, and they're not the wallets that are going to pump the chain. As Giga said earlier, he's secured hundreds of wallets on chain already, ready to buy up the supply with. And he doesn't work alone. He's got a lot of billionaire friends that he's, you know, obviously coercing with to make sure this thing does what it's supposed to do. All I know is at this present moment in time, I wouldn't want to be on any other chain other than Pulsechain right now until I
100%
see the
agree, man.
results.
It's like, you know, we've been waiting for a long time, but I think it's just, where else do you want to be, really? I mean, it's just the most interesting space, I think, compared to anything else going on in crypto. You can go over to Solana and look at these meme coins, and you're just like, dude, they're getting rugged left and right. I mean, there's just
Hey,
so
we
much
got meme
garbage.
coins.
You know, I just see all this other stuff, and I'm like, and it's not like I don't test the waters and go try to prove my theories wrong, but it's like, this is the spot. This is like where real interesting, like, who is doing a grassroots marketing effort that has to use a nonprofit, right? You're not seeing that in any other crypto.
Yeah, we haven't seen any of the effects of the marketing yet. And again, you know, I don't know if everyone knows that, but he's renowned as a marketing genius, right? So, you know, we saw what he did with Hex. You know, it was on billboards and everywhere he could legally market it. It was marketed, and a lot of that wasn't even done by him. He just kind of led everyone in the right direction to promote their own bags, and everyone became a marketer. And that's kind of what's going to happen with Pulsechain. But the driver for that is going to be obviously price action, which is the one thing that we haven't really had yet. You know, we launched and we hit maybe just under triple sack price, I think, after launch. And ever since then, obviously the charts have been rawly descending, and you know, whatever the plan is, it's about to come into action. You can clearly see that Pulsechain and Pulsex have a bottom. They have a ground, And you can't say that for a lot of things. There's multi-billion-dollar projects that are launching on Binance, and they have no ground. They go down and down and down, and they drop 90% from launch before they start climbing. And they stay there. That could take 6 months, a year, even a lot longer. So it's completely normal, the accumulation phase we're going through. And I wouldn't be surprised if, the hundreds of wallets that have been selling non-stop since launch, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of that was Richard Hart himself, which is, believe it or not a negative at all. It's a very big positive, because why let all the extractors rip the money off chain when he can be just accumulating all of those funds in the hundreds of wallets, if not thousands by now, that he's going to be buying up the chain with, because he's not going to be able to do it with the sac funds wallet, as we all know, because he'll get done for market manipulation, right? So it's going to be from these hundreds of side wallets. We know he's got the funds. We know he's got the funds even without the sacrifice. We know when he started mining BTC. We know when he started buying Ethereum. And even before the sacrifice, I believe Richard Hart's one of the largest holders of Ethereum anyway. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens when his entire plan comes into action.
Pulsechain has only ever existed in an environment of quantitative tightening. For us to have what we have today, with all of the negative and unfavorable monetary policy that the entire investment world has been up against, is incredible. We did get a taste, a little bit of what we are capable of in March of 2024, but even during that, we were in an environment of much worse quantitative tightening than what we have right now. So when this policy reverses, and it looks like it may start reversing here this month as they make an interest rate cut coming up, but like when it really reverses, when they turn the money printer back on and go into quantitative easing, a lot of these red candle days are going to be something that we look back and laugh at, just because of how powerful something like the Fed's balance sheet expanding is for the entire investment world, or speculative investment world. I mean, we're going to see a point here where, like, even the silliest meme coin on pump.tires, you're going to be able to make a lot of money with, because of just how much energy is delivered with the money printer, and also how much money has to be printed to do what they need to do for like the purpose of why they're going to do it this time around, to keep the national debt, the U.S. national debt, manageable, and start monetizing it as an investment. So I think that when you see those policies turn around, we see a more favorable chart in all of our assets.
What's your point of view on single-sided stake for Pulsex?
I don't think it'll ever happen. I don't think single-sided staking's in the best interest of the chain at all. I know he had mentioned it a couple times on stream earlier on, and then he called it retarded a couple of times as well later on. So
really, I missed those ones.
yeah, he criticized single-sided staking, and he basically said, like, why am I going to reward you for holding? Holding's the reward in itself. Price appreciation is. So you put excess weight on your chain if you're providing an incentive just for people to hold. But the incentive should be the speculation, like the speculative nature of the asset itself.
And if you want single-sided staking, that's the whole point of Hex.
I mean, true.
Yeah,
Hex in itself is single-sided staking.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I look at Hex as kind of like, how Bitcoin, you have hash rate, you mine, right? That's the same thing. Pulse, validating, same thing. But then when you go to liquidity pools, I look at that as like someone who's just providing liquidity on an exchange, like on a central exchange. We provided Bitcoin on the order book and you're pairing it to, USDT. There you go. You're doing the same thing. Providing liquidity on a central exchange, but you're just now doing it on Pulsex.
Yeah, no,
Different
like
trade-offs.
I was just looking at the philosophy of Pulsex on how to reduce the tokens and then because you would burn them, and then you get new issuance, right? And then you would just it would just run for so long, and then it would be capped off, cut off or whatever. Do it to
Well, if you look at the mechanics of like any staking protocol that has like reflection tokens, for example, what tends to happen with any of these single-sided, and this has been a criticism of Hex I've had in the past, but what you tend to see with any of these single-sided pools or any of these reflection tokens is that over time, let's say the best way to describe this is the cost of living and having luxury goods and things, expenses in life typically increase linearly, not exponentially, but your growth of wealth will increase exponentially in a staking protocol that's like offering you reflections or incentive of itself. So what ends up happening is you have someone who hits a certain cap. So like let's say it's $1 million, just to make things easy. So now that guy staking his $1 million is able to perpetually take out his living expenses, which might be like, let's say $10,000 a month or whatever. And now he can forever drain the system without ever having to put any new capital back into the system. And this is what we see with any single-sided staking. This is what we see with any reflection token, is that it ultimately accumulates and it distributes all of the excess value to the top. And now if your top holders are not accumulating more supply with new capital or onboarding new capital, and they're only using it as a means to live, then now your protocol will never be able to move forward.
I don't know.
So
yeah.
So the thing is, I
No,
agree
that's
with
true
you
though.
on in some regards, but I think in terms of hex, once you unstake your hex, you
yep.
effectively have to restake it larger and longer to get the same level of hex reward
Mm,
back. So you can't ever just cheat the system, right? Like it's more difficult to get the same amount of hex without going out
Yeah,
larger and longer.
100%.
Back on the people that were stupid, wasting all the money on electricity and Bitcoin mining, and then the price is, astronomically higher, and it would have never mattered that they were losing money.
Yeah, it effectively, this is kind of a contentious point too. Try not to be like completely contrarian in everything that's said, but like a lot of miners, if you ever speak to them, is like a lot of them would have been better off and less headache if they were just averaging in and buying the thing in the first place.
What I really appreciate about the Richard Hart core assets is that they were specifically designed with security first. How do you guys explain to new onboards why these assets have the highest form of security in crypto?
I can tell you my perspective is, I think Richard's design intention was to make a better Bitcoin. So I know it sounds, far fetched, but reality is, right, there's less counterparty risk. The T shares are sort of like difficulty, and the difficulty goes up over time, similar to Bitcoin. It's just we have different halvings, right? We have T shares a T share rate that goes up. And so when you could get 10,000 hex per T share and then it's 20,000, that's a halving, right? You could technically consider that a halving. And so the supply is, it's harder and harder to get that supply essentially. And you don't have to run miners, hardware, all that to get the same thing. It's just a proof of work change with time instead of, hash rate.
And what you are doing is by tying ink to Pulse and PulseX so heavily is you are distributing the weight of all the farming rewards, which is typically deemed exit liquidity, right? So if you're farming ink, you're providing liquidity for other people to sell onto you at the time, because that was post sacrifice. That's what we expect. And then the timing was up. Basically, he's saying, I'm no longer expecting you to be exit liquidity for these people. You're likely going to pull all of your liquidity, and we're going to experience a lot more volatility, but it will also be the best way to flush out the people who are staying and the people who are going, or just the yield farmers from the people who are just hodling. So the decorrelation between Pulse and PulseX occurred because the amount of liquidity between them vaporized. Like we were talking that it was like $50 million at one point, and it's now like maybe $9 million, I think. So that puts it at 4.5 million of ask, which is like, that means anyone with a couple $100,000 could completely change the ratio of Pulse versus PulseX. And that's a good thing. But It's a bad thing if you want to onboard large amounts of money, but it's a good thing if you're trying to get rid of dead weight.
So which part of the timeline are we on right now?
So what you would have to say is what you'd have to assume is that the master chef contract, which is controlled by a single address, cut issuance of ink down to 0.03%. So it was originally one ink was made every single second, and then it was divided up amongst the farms and then divided up amongst the holders in each farm. So he reduced that to 0.03% ink per second, which disincentivized all of the farming. So you had this huge wash of liquidity. So everyone pulled their pairs. And then you experienced a shit ton of volatility, right? That's what we've seen the past several months, all-time low prices really. And that is just basically signaling that it's like, hey, the people who were obviously providing liquidity were the believers, but at the same time, they were being the exit liquidity for the large sacrificers up front. So now what you have is a new time period where you have the ability to have volatility to the upside without having all of that dead weight. But now you're decorrelating all of your things. So everything's now separated. You're not putting excess dead weight on the chain. We saw the single entity, however you want to word it, stake billions and billions of hex. So he just murdered the APR rate on hex temporarily. And now we are basically, we're sitting here, we're waiting, we're trying to bring more adoption, and we're expecting to see the volatility to the upside because of the thinness of those pools. And naturally, over time, the issuance rate of ink doesn't have to change ever again. It could stay where it's at right now, because if ink's price, it's like what, $1.50 right now? If it went to, let's say, $15, all of a sudden those farms are extremely juicy, which what does that do? It counterbalances the weight of the sell pressure of the chain, because now you and every other guy is going to see that, hey, if I stake, let's say $10,000 of Pulse and USDC, I'm now earning 400% APY. So now you're being the exit liquidity for those higher prices at the top, and you don't have all of the weight of that the mass of the chain down here at those lows. So it means you're able to move the price up much higher and then try to incentivize liquidity to come and be provided to hold those levels.
Nice. So yeah, like that's something I also realized. When Richard flooded Hex and the t-shirts just dropped down to like I think we were like at 8-7, right? Down to 1.5. But then like my fantasy started kicking in. I'm like, what if Hex was, I don't know, $2, $3? It's still like,
And the APY is amazing then. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
yeah.
Yeah, so but
So
imagine if the APY was still, like for the farms before he cut them, we were looking at like 300% and shit on stables. And I go, imagine if Ink's price was $100, you would be effectively giving away millions of dollars a day just to incentivize the farming, just to incentivize providing liquidity. I mean, so it's a reflexive system in the same way that Hex was designed. And I try to harp on about this because it's like adding a whole nother layer of complexity to what he originally made with Hex. But now the reflexive system is built around 4 tokens rather than just one, and it's built around farming rather than staking, or whatever you want to call Hex. People use different words like mine or whatever.
As far as security goes, I think everybody needs to learn like the do's and don'ts of security in DeFi, especially if you're new to DeFi, meaning not just trading on a centralized exchange, which is, in my opinion, a security error in and of itself. But couple main things: never give up your seed phrase, never give up your private keys. If you don't know what that is, you got to look it up, because those are like the first line of attack for people to steal your money. The next thing is be careful what you click on, right? Because like even if you keep your seed phrase, you never tell anybody, but you authorize something on your wallet, you're like, yes, I'm going to let my wallet do this thing because you clicked a link that was malicious, that had inside it like something that drains your wallet. You still have to authorize that. You actually clicked and agreed, yes, you can drain my wallet. You just didn't read what your wallet showed you before you authorized that. So be very careful what you click. And whenever you're not sure if everything is okay, you can revoke your approvals. And that means revoking what you've agreed to in the past inside your wallet. So the main website to do that is revoke.cash. And when you make an approval in your wallet, often that approval's forever, and often it's for infinity amount of money, right? So you could say like, oh, okay, I agree to trade 0.5 Ethereum, right? But you may have approved that DEX or wherever you're trading that Ethereum for 1 million Ethereum. And if you ever have 1 million Ethereum in your wallet and that DEX is compromised, you could also be compromised. So if you're not sure, go to revoke.cash and revoke all your approvals. It doesn't cost very much money, just a couple transaction fees. And yeah, better safe than sorry.
Crypto Princess wanted us to double check and see if we're able to add Pulsechain to the Trezor one, since that it doesn't allow some tokens. I didn't have the answer to that, but I told her that we would try to address that today, and then go over more of the security aspects. I'm just going to read these out, and then whoever wants to come up and talk or address these things. Jordan asked, why is it bad using the keyboard for the passphrase? And I got several questions. Why is it recommended to use a hardware wallet? What is it? And is it still worth buying even if you've already done long-term stakes in your MetaMask wallet? If we can just break down the security and the most basic elements so that people can understand the how and the why to keep them protected, especially with all of this crazy security stuff going on. Maybe we could go over why and how Richard Hart's assets are, particularly superior in security.
I can take those first two questions. So, with the first question about like, does the Trezor hold Pulsechain? Like, it's yes, and it's also no, because like, yes, you can move your Pulsechain assets to the Trezor. I do that. It's just that Trezor's desktop app doesn't show it, but that's all right, because you see, like, with Pulsechain, your address for Pulsechain is the same address as your Ethereum address, and it's true of many other blockchains that kind of run off of like the same thing. Sonic does this as well, where if you're on all three chains, the address is exactly the same. You just change the network. So to do this, you're going to need your Trezor, but you're also going to need some kind of hot wallet like MetaMask. I was going to say Rabby, but we can't use them no more. But you're going to need like MetaMask to have a connect it up to a hot wallet, so that way you can switch networks when your Trezor is connected. And the other thing, the other question was, why is it important to enter in your passcodes and everything on the Trezor as opposed to on your computer on the keyboard? Is because, well, there's these things that like Pop had told me about them, the key loggers. That there is a piece of like malware or spyware that can be on your computer that basically just logs all of your keystrokes, and when that happens, somebody could easily get your password, and you just want to avoid that as much as you can. Like, the whole point of these hardware wallets is the fact that anytime you're going to be typing in any type of sensitive data, you're going to be doing it on the hardware device as opposed to on your computer, where it could be key logged.